Heyo, it's your boy, and this is Glass Wings. It's a third-person parkour platformer made by an indie developer with clear Mirror's Edge inspirations, which is why it caught my eye. You're seeing essentially a segmented speedrun. I speedran all 4 levels, and I stitched them together in order for you to essentially get a full game experience. I'll also explain the speed tech. The first speed tech is to run around stuff. So a lot of the animations in this game, they're slow, and they're also quite scripted. There's not dynamic animations. I think the animations might be tied individually to the objects, and for the most part, because they're slow, you want to avoid the animations as much as possible. The second piece of speed tech is to slide, quite a lot. Sliding in this game is fast. Really, sprinting is fast, right? But then you can slide out of a sprint and gain even more speed. So sliding is really good, and then sliding and jumping lets you maintain that speed through the jump, so slide jumping is usually the fastest thing you can do, although spamming slide is also quite fast. For example, you can see me do a slide jump to get over this gap here, and then I'm forced, unfortunately, to go over this fence using the slow animation. But when I can slide, I will, like going under that collision. You also can't jump over collision that's very high. I have to take the jump over this. You also can't wall run wherever you want. So although it'd be nice to wall run over that fence, I am forced to take the animation there. You can wall run on those walls with scuffed marks on them. Those are, again, sort of pre-scripted to be wall runnable. But for the most part, the fastest thing I can do is to run around collision like that, and to take the animations when I have to. Sometimes you need to use the wall run to get over gaps, and I will do so when I have to. Here's another example of the collision being just a tad too high to jump over, so I have to take the animations. But then, I can jump over this bit of collision. That's a nice little time save over the previous world record. The previous world record was a 2:02. I managed to cut 5 seconds off of it in this run, which is nice. The other cool thing about sliding is that you can slide up slopes no problem. So we're coming to the end of the level. You'll notice that sliding off the edge is also pretty fast, so I do that to maintain a lot of speed. But once you hit this blue mark, that's the end of the level. That's tutorial. And this is my favorite level. This is construction. Construction is cool because it starts with an out-of-bounds skip right here. You springboard and you get on top of this rooftop, and then from there you could jump to another rooftop. You can see at this point the game doesn't really have fall damage. You can survive a fall from any height. I'm gonna do a corner cut here, and then try to do more and more slide jumps just to get that speed and maintain that speed. Although the game doesn't have fall damage, you do have a consequence for falling too far. You get a little stumble animation. You have a few options to avoid that stumble. The first is like Mirror's Edge. You can hit the slide button right before you land to do a roll, which is pretty fast, but I think it's ever so slightly faster to cancel the stumble animation with a slide, and then just get back to full speed as quickly as possible, which you'll see me do here, for example, and pretty much everywhere whenever I can. Sometimes I get an accidental roll if I mistime the input, but for the most part, I'll try to do that slide cancel where I can. You're going to see the way zip lines work in this game is they're pretty magnetic. You just kind of jump in the right place, you get sucked to it. Again, it speaks to the way the game was coded, which is everything is kind of on rails, right? Same with these animations. I think they're pre-selected, or maybe they're dynamic and it chooses from one of a few animations. I'm really not sure. The game is only 4 levels long and it's an indie developer, so I think a lot of compromises were made to make it work. But it's pretty sleek and stylish for what it is, so I give the developer a lot of credit. The Mirror's Edge aesthetic really shines through here, particularly Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I think there are construction levels that are very similar to the aesthetic they go for in this zone particularly. Here's a little shortcut I did over the prior world record, is I take the springboard up in that section rather than in the intended section. I do a bit of avoiding collision here. But that saves, I think, a second or two. And then this I stole from the previous world record, is instead of going all the way around, you can sort of cut over this beam. I take it nice and slow. I don't want to die because I'm on good pace. But you could definitely save a few seconds if you took that a little bit less safe. That's really the hard part of construction done. I'm kind of in the home stretch now. There's a little zip line to the end here, and then one more springboard. But I like this level a lot. I think it's a good pace. It has some cool shortcuts. You'll see some levels I like less coming up, but construction's a good one. And that's construction in 2.11. And now for a level I've barely played, Offices. Now, Offices is cool because you really take advantage of the fact that there's no fall damage. You do a slide cancel off to this roof, and then another slide cancel off to this roof, and voila, you're at the end. So I've never actually played this level the intended way. Previous world record was a 15, I got a 14, and it works. And we're at the last and longest level, the final boss of Glass Wings, if you will, and it's a level called Action Blocks. Action Blocks is split into 3 sections, each trying to get you to master one of the core mechanics of the game. This core mechanic that you're seeing here is the slide. So it's going to teach me how to slide longer. It's going to put me into slow motion, try to teach me some stuff. Really, all I'm doing is spamming the slide button. You can actually see it in my input viewer in the bottom left corner, as I am spamming the slide button. For some reason, that gets me a lot of speed coming out of these slides. It's a little bit awkward looking. These slopes are cool because you do actually maintain momentum down them. Slide cancel here. But I got a little stuck on that first slope. This slope works just as intended though, so I managed to get a nice long slide under all the collision. Same with this slope. This is a pretty cool section of the game. Pretty cinematic, I'll give it credit. I mentioned the other level was inspired by Mirror's Edge Catalyst and the construction aesthetic. This is, I think, more clearly inspired by the pure time trials in the original Mirror's Edge with that blocky aesthetic. It works though, it's really cool looking. That's the first section done. That is the slide section, and now we're moving on to the wall run section, where you get a really good view of how wall runs work in this game. I mentioned that they were scripted. You could only wall run on certain walls. Obviously, all of these walls are scripted to be wall runnable, but also you can wall run for quite a while. You can stick onto a wall for probably 4 to 5 seconds, and then you gain a little bit of height, and then lose a little bit of height. For the most part, it's really easy to gain height. You can also airstrafe quite a bit, so you can see me airstrafe around here. I think that's the intended mechanic, is to airstrafe around, which is neat. Do a little slide cancel here once again. Fitting in a slide jump where I can. You can also do wall runs here on these slanted walls, which is neat. This section of the level is a bit of a slog. There's not much you can do to speed it up. This is probably my least favorite level for that reason. But hey, it's fine. We're making it work. Gotta gain a little bit of height here. I actually gained too much height, and I ended up having to take a stumble, but that's okay. Because I do a skip here. Instead of doing more wall runs, I jump onto this collision. That allows me to fit in another slide jump and then a slide cancel off the edge here. And that saves me a bit of time. I get an accidental roll, but I don't lose this like less than half a second, I think. This is a skip I stole from a prior runner. Instead of going through the level as intended and having to wall run through the little gaps up above, you just jump all the way down here and then you take the wall runs down there. And it's a lot safer, if not faster, to do that. Here's the third section of the level, the final section, and it's based around zipline mastery. You're forced to do a lot of those springboard animations to get up to these ziplines, otherwise you won't be able to grab them. And then it teaches you how to fall off ziplines if you haven't already figured that out. It's worth noting that the Alt button is the slide button, it's also the button I use for falling off ziplines, and generally the game doesn't have rebinded controls. You have to use the default controls, which is a bit of a shame. Nice little skip here though. If you hold W, A, and Shift, you can land right onto this rooftop. That saves some time over the prior world record. I think the prior world record on this one was a 3:56, so I managed to cut off 15 seconds. I am forced into some animations here, really no way around it, but I can slide under this, which is nice. You're gonna see a really awkward section here. I do the 2 wall runs, and then I get this really weird animation thing. I think it ends up being kind of fast, but yeah, it works pretty well for me. We're coming to the end here. I've got a few more jumps and a few more wall runs, but that is pretty much Glass Wings. There's a few extra levels in the game if you decide to buy it, like a developer playground, but this is the bulk of the speedrunnable section. I think you should give it a shot. It's only $1. It's Mirror's Edge inspired, and the developer could go on to do some pretty cool things. So I hope you enjoyed the speedrun. I hope you enjoyed the game. Take a look on Steam. Links in the description for all my individual level runs as well. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.